Hello, welcome to Talk to Dr. Tiwa series. Thank you for your patience. We apologize. We had some technical glitches behind the scenes, and we are glad that we're finally streaming. I hope you can hear us. We're streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If you're struggling, please join, any of those channels. Um, Again, we thank you for your patience and we'll get right started. I'm excited I'm excited about the conversation today. This is a topic that has been on my heart because it's happening more and more, affecting everybody, affecting men, affecting women, although more common in women because of the unequal power dynamics. But this is a topic that it's very dear to my heart because you just hear one more victim, one more person, and it's time to increase the awareness. It's time to talk about this and see ways around it so we can learn more and know what to do. So I'm excited to introduce our guest, who is Lolade Ajayi, popularly called Lolade Oye. Because of our time, I'm just going to let her introduce herself and she will share with you why she's the perfect person to discuss this topic. So, for those that are just, are new joining us, I'm Tiwa Oshinfisan. I'm the host. I'm a psychiatrist, a mindset strategist, an author, and I serve healthcare professionals and highly skilled professionals, helping them to achieve mental health transformation and peak performance. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you learned one or two things. Over to you, Lolade. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I am Lolade Ajayi. First of all, sorry, this is late. We're behind schedule. Apologies, please. So I'm Lolade Ajayi. I identify as a feminist. I'm a poet. I am the founder of DOHS Cares Foundation, DOHS Vulnerable Women, DOHS Cares for Vulnerable Women and Children Foundation, an organization that caters to victims and survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. We operate in Nigeria, and we've been in operation since 2021, and then got registered as an organization in 2023. And we have been working to rescue victims of gender-based violence, and we as well operate a femicide observatory. Femicide is the intentional killing of women and girls, usually by men who are their intimate partners, relative or acquaintances. We've been tracking femicide across the country since 2024. So let me stop there for now.
Thank you so much, Lolade. It's great having you with us. Thank you for the introduction. I'm looking forward to I'm looking for an impactful discussion where our learners will be able to take key key things home. So I'll get right in. We're already behind schedule, so I'm just getting started right away. And our first, the first question that I have for you, Lolade, is why this? What inspired you? Why this topic? Why this advocacy? What inspired this advocacy for you? And when? What was going on? So tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired this for you.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I find it sometimes difficult to answer this question because I'm always wondering when they say, "Why are you in the advocacy space?" I'm like, should I say it was my experience with child sexual harassment, or was it when I got into feminism, or was it because I've observed so much inequality around me? Um, the issues that women and girls face on a daily basis, the harmful practices against women and girls, mainly encouraged by patriarchal systems. So I often find it difficult to choose, but let me just say, maybe I should say I was born this way. I found myself in this space, and it's been an incredible journey.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. For me, like I was sharing with this topic, I'd heard about, domestic violence before now, even when I was younger, but going into mental health, going into psychiatry, then you hear stories, patients, and then you hear of
Mm,
family members, and then you hear of the faith communities. For me, where you're just hearing, somebody else died by this, or you hear like a senior colleague, someone so it's so close home to home,
mm,
and then you're wondering what's going on, how did this happen, and and it's by the person we all we trusted the most, either the spouse, when you hear patient story, even
mm,
by even to men, by their women, by their wives, and you're wondering what is going on. And
mm,
so this has just become an increasing concern of mine, where I really just want us to shed more light, on it. Like, we need to talk about it, and we need to talk about people like you that are in the space, and increase that awareness. So, I'm sorry to hear about, what you shared, with the sexual harassment, with the advocating for women. And when you say you're feminist, what does that mean? Feminism can have a different definition, that can be a turn off or can be a turn on. And I always like people to explain that, because I've heard different people's definition, and that can really just, you're identifying with that term. What does that mean for you in this context?
It's very simple. It means someone who fights for women's rights, someone who does not stand for
Okay.
inequality, someone who wants better opportunities for women and girls, considering the um, oppression, the um, inequalities that women and girls are subjected to. Someone who just want, you know, agency of women to be said and equal opportunities for
Okay.
women and girls.
Thanks for clarifying that. um so the other question of mine would be, um how was your so with your experience, from what you were saying, you were like, maybe you were born this way, and like you said, different experiences has led to this, be it inspiring your writing, be it inspiring your advocacy. So what does when we talk about domestic violence, with what you've observed, can you share, your experiences in your advocacy work? What does that mean, your day to day, what, where, how they present, how you respond, how can you share a little bit of that experience with us?
Okay, so domestic violence is violence against the person who you are either intimate with, you're in the same vicinity, you're related to, or an intimate partner between intimate partners. And it's a form of gender based violence, which is basically done to harm a person. So, from my experience with domestic violence in my organization, we have noticed over the years that domestic violence is not usually um, it's what I say is not a one-off event. It Victims have often gone through different patterns of a textbook pattern for abusers that they would they will not just be subjected to this physical violence. It may have involved some form of sexual violence, emotional and psychological violence, economic violence, and all that. So all of these can constitute what constitute violence against the person. Now, I like the fact that you said earlier that gender-based violence can happen to both male and female. I mean, GBV is a respecter of no person, but studies has established that uh, violence against women is predominant against um, women and girls. So domestic violence is usually common in intimate partner settings. Yeah.
Okay. Lolade, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay. So what would you So from the statistics now, I'm learning, um, as well with even from WHO, it's in the United States, every 9 seconds, it seems like a woman is being assaulted or beaten, which is that's quite that's quite high. Um, in the studies I read, it's like in every minute, 20 women or 20 people are going through this globally. So, which is pretty frequent. But so when people present to you, as well, you're in Nigeria. Um, when people, how do you hear about this? So do they call you? Do they send you a message? How do you find out? How do the survivors come to you? How do you learn of these cases? And then you can also tell us your background, because I know, with the lawyers and legal stuff, how do you get involved? Lolade, we can't really see you. Okay. So the background was, yeah, we can see you now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So how do they present to you? Yeah.
for us in our organization, what we do is that we go for community sensitization programs in different communities, especially in rural communities, and we sensitize them about harmful practices against women and girls, about you know all forms of abuse. Also, we go to schools, especially public schools, government secondary schools, to speak to mostly teen adolescent girls about what constitute abuse. So from these spaces, many of them open up to us to disclose about their experience with domestic violence. Some are currently going through that, situation when we are there, and so for some, we have to immediately rescue, we place them in a shelter, and facilitate a safe house for them. And also, people call us from social media, from our website, from tag us to cases on social media. Oftentimes, and most not even from where we are domiciled, which is in Lagos, Nigeria, but from all over the country, and we are able to just connect them with support services where they are in the different states where they are. But domestic violence is very prevalent in Nigeria as well, and it's I think that because we operate a society that violence against women is actually more like normalized, especially by traditional and religious practices. Encouraging women and girls to stay in abusive relationships and toxic environments. So um, sometimes the victim of the abuse does not even report themselves. So it's even someone who has heard about us, someone who knows what they're supposed to do, that speak about this, and then we go to the station, we report it, we take the victim out of that place, and from there we take the prosecution process on.
Okay. And so I know you mentioned something, very interesting, which is you said the culture. And in Nigeria, maybe versus America and the Western countries. Um, and you mentioned religious communities. Could you speak a little bit more, especially with those that are coming, the victims, the survivors? What have you noticed maybe sponsoring? Can we unpack that a little bit? What is sponsoring that? Where they are staying, or did they see the signs? What would you say? What is the mindset that may be sponsoring this?
So I often say that um, religion and tradition are the twin tools of patriarchy. And what I mean by that is that um, they are the culture that sustains these practices um, in a society that is generally given to unequal access to opportunities. So oftentimes that most women and girls are um, often dependent on their abusers. So when they want to leave, it's like, where do you want to go? What are you
Hmm.
going to do with the children? So the people who are supposed to be support system encouraging you to leave are now pushing to say, you know what? It's just I also endured it. I also, I was there. So they just, maybe religious leaders will tell you to pray about it, to, um maybe you're not doing something right enough, and then you have to endure. And the abuser continues in that practice because the society has normalized this practice. It feels like the norm. And also, when cases happen in rural communities, instead of them reporting it to police, oftentimes I must the first of all report to, like, community leaders, like, traditional leaders in the communities. And when the traditional leader is actually, somebody who is violent towards his own
Mhm.
spouse, how is that traditional leader going to uh,
Mm.
correct that practice? So there's no how. He's going to tell you that it's the norm. Maybe you're not doing something right. So
Mm.
oftentimes, at most, this traditional leaders are the ones that are often encouraging these practices. And also, one other thing is that, you know when women and girls dare to, speak up, refuse abuse practices, they get punished for it. For instance, women who are considered to be outspoken or sexually liberated, or for some reason or the other, is just, bold to say no. So it feels like they are the outliers, and
Mm.
they should be punished for this. And so oftentimes, that most these women and girls are punished for speaking up, and they are encouraged by this um, tools of patriarchy, which is tradition and religion. So, because, I mean, already you see that you are in the church, even, when you want to marry, you're told um, your husband is this. In northern Nigeria, for example, you can you can discipline your wife according to the penal code that is
Mm.
practiced in northern Nigeria, which, I mean, in the
Wow.
south we have the criminal code, but in northern Nigeria they use the penal code, and it says, there's a portion that is allowed for you to actually discipline your wife so far there are no scars. Yeah,
Oh,
you
wow.
don't see there are scars. So in that kind of situation, and because this law is encouraged, by Sharia law and all of that. So in that kind of situation, how do women and girls hope to get any kind of leverage or justice? um Domestic violence is going to, be the norm. um
Yeah.
and domestic violence is often the precursor to femicide.
Mm-hmm.
Once the is you're like one step away from dying, from being killed. And we've witnessed several cases like that. And also stereotypes, gender stereotypes, you know what actually encourages this practices of domestic violence. For instance, um, uh, uh, um, gender stereotypes like cooking, for instance, like cooking. Who gets to cook the food? Who gets to do some certain chores, which are like, assigned to these gender roles that are assigned to women and girls. And if they fall short of these roles, they get punished for it. So, for instance, we had the woman during the last Ramadan, the fasting period, who didn't prepare the sari, the food that they were supposed to use to break, the way the husband wanted her to prepare it. And so he beat her with a cane. And when I heard that that woman died, she fainted and died. When she got to the hospital, they died. I knew that it must have been a practice that he was used to. The only problem was that this time around she died. And she probably died because maybe she was weak. She had been fasting all day, and then before she broke the fast in the evening, she had been working, cooking for the to break the fast. So all of that accumulated um in what contributed to her death. So, and it was because he knew that he could get away with beating her. He had been doing it and all of that. So, these harmful practices are actually encouraged by, the law, the tradition, and the religion. I can't hear you. Can you still hear me? Hi, Tiwalala.
Yeah, the reception, there was a glitch. We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Oh, you couldn't hear me. I stopped speaking for a while. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you now. There was that glitch. So I
Okay.
think what we heard was the lady, the lady that eventually died,
Yes, I was saying how
from, that was, yeah.
tradition and religion contributed to the death of that lady who had been experiencing domestic violence. Her husband had been beating her
Yeah.
before, but during fasting, he asked her to cook the food in a certain type of way, but she didn't cook it that way. And then he beat her up for it. He came there. So probably because she had been
Yeah.
fasting, she was weak. So she
Yeah.
fainted. And eventually by the time she got to the hospital, she had died. So of course, number one, religion contributed to that. Number two, the tradition and the law that accepts that you can actually discipline your wife contributed to that.
Yeah, which is very heartbreaking. Yes. So from what you're saying, it's almost like with the system, all the everything in the system, the structure is already setting the woman up for failure. She can't
Yeah,
really advocate for herself or speak up. Is like you said, the culture, the wherever she goes is like this is the norm, and who knows the number of women in the north that must be going through this.
exactly.
Yeah. So and that's why, to our audience, to the people listening to us, if you know someone, as we're speaking, if this resonates with you, either your own story or you know someone going through this, please reach out to them, share this link with them, let them know they are seen, they are heard. Somebody is, they have a voice,
They do
they
not deserve
matter,
to be.
and they don't deserve, like what Lolade is saying, they don't deserve to be abused. So from what you're saying, if you now have a lady in the north, if we have a listener now that is already going through the abuse, what should they do? If we have
Oh,
someone listening to us that is like, oh my God, Lolade, this is my story. My husband hits me for no reason. I have bruises, and I'm in the south or I'm in the west of Nigeria. What do I do? My children, they witness this. What would you say with that?
okay. So I would say, number one, you do not deserve to be abused. I would say you've got to leave that abuse situation. I would say you've got to flee for your life. I would say you've got to also seek for justice. You've got to report this abuse. So, like I said earlier, what we usually do is to report these cases, get the survivor to a safe shelter, and then
Okay.
begin to report this case. Because many of these women, they say, "Oh, what about my children? I
Yeah.
don't want I don't want a what's it called, a broken home. I don't want my
Mhm.
children to not grow up with their other father or whatever." So, but at the end of the day, you're doing damage to those children because the trauma that those children are experiencing with that domestic violence is going to you know tell on them later. They could experience PTSD, anxiety, all forms of trauma related issues, and also it could even lead to them repeating that cycle of abuse
Exactly.
later in the future, because hurt people
Yeah.
hurt people will hurt other people. So it's better to live with your life intact. It's better to speak up against that abuse. Tell somebody about it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lolade. I'm now going to, I like exactly what you said, to leave now so you can live later. And then for your children, you address something that is very common. Nobody, some people don't even speak up. There's the shame, there's the embarrassment. Especially what will people say? What will people say about, and like you said, broken homes, is my husband there? I don't want people to seem like a beast, or I don't want this to happen. What will my children? So I like where we're going, because if
Mm.
there's someone listening to us, I'm just going to echo what Lola they said. What maybe because before I echo it, I'll let you, Lola, if there's someone that is saying, but I don't know how to lead, I don't know how, help me. I don't know. I want to, but I don't know how to go about it. What would you say? Like what, like you said, they should call, they should speak up. But they're like, you know what? I don't know how. I've been in this for 20 years. I've been in this for 15 years. He's still a provider. He takes care of my children. He still buys me clothes. He still takes care of my needs. He still loves me. It's just this beating. It's just this hitting. What would you tell our listener that is going through this, that is still saying, this is the only thing about my spouse? Every other thing is wonderful. It's just this anger issues. What would you say?
Um, if you're not a therapist and somebody is has anger issue, you're not going to be able to fix it. You're not going to be staying in a place because you're taking care of your children or for some other benefits that you're accruing from that situation. Sometimes, for some survivors, we try our possible best to get them out, and they start, giving reasons why they don't want to leave and all of that. And then sometimes we have to be very blunt with them and tell them, "You're going to die. You're going to die if you don't leave. You will die, and you will move on." So we have to sometimes more or less like almost forcibly pull some survivors from some situation, especially if it's been reported before. Because for some, we take them to safe shelters and they return. After a while, they return back to their abusive
Mm,
environments, and it begins again. The cycle begins again, and they reach out to us in the middle of the night, like, why would you go back there? It's not going to, you're not going to use love or prayer or anything else to change this. You just have to leave. You know, if you don't want to, say divorce or anything, just be separated for a while. During that period, you could be going through the prayer thinking, you could be, going to see counselors, therapists, and all of that. But then be stay somewhere. And there's no how. If you speak up, you would see someone that will help you. If a family member does not help you, you can go to the police station, walk to the nearest police station, just ask for their, in Nigeria, just ask for a gender desk officer, gender unit. They will help you.
okay.
Also,
Okay.
DOHS
Yeah.
Cares Foundation, our
Okay.
website, our phone numbers, our social media. You can just send any message to us at DOHS Cares, and we will definitely swing into action to ensure that that survivor is rescued.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I'll echo the same thing here in America. If you call 911, if you're able to, some don't make it to even call. So if you can call 911, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, 911, in America, that works. But it's just if you're able, if it's there, if they can hear you, if they can dispatch on time and, and get there on time. But once the police officers are there, they usually try to bring, either to take the abuser out of the scene, um, and in most cases here, the woman gets to stay in the house. The man is asked to leave and
Mm,
maybe arrested. And they will ask the woman if the woman wants to prosecute, press charges. Some cases no, some cases yes. But I like what you are saying that in Nigeria, if there's someone listening to us, yeah, and if you're not in Nigeria, wherever you are, even in your country, find out what are the services for domestic violence. They may have a line, helpline, a safety line that you can even report, anonymously. Can somebody come? What are the steps? So that you don't die in this. Not just even dying physically, but actually dying mentally, dying, and then your children, like Lolade said, the children also pick on these patterns. And I've seen that as a psychiatrist. I've seen that. I see children that are victims of the circumstance. In adverse childhood experiences, about one in six, would have gone through a form of abuse as before age 18. And for females and sorry, for males is like six, and in females is in like four. So it's very common, it's very prevalent that by 18, a child has gone through something. So it's good for us to check what is it with the adverse childhood experiences. which is a risk factor for several things. It's a risk factor for depression, anxiety, like you said, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance abuse, even human trafficking, addiction. Just even it's leads to many things because it becomes a wound, an invisible wound that needs to be nursed, that needs to be treated. That if it's not treated, it can fester. It can lead to many other disorders, including physical, even medical conditions. Is it diabetes because of? Is it diabetes? Is it hypertension? Is it heart diseases? So it's not just about the experience. It's not just the adverse experience. It doesn't end there. It's a prodrome. It just leads to several other problems in life. The child may struggle with attachment. The child may struggle with a trust issue. May not be able to have relationship. May not be able to bond, and then the pattern continues. The pattern continues, and in some cases, Lolade,
Mm-hmm.
in some cases, that child becomes an abuser, or or date or ends up with another abuser because that is the environment that child learned. It becomes a learned environment that is
Yeah.
then reproduced. Because if that child then goes to or meets someone that is nice, it becomes an abnormally for that child. It becomes an anomaly for that child. It's like, you're too nice. I'm not used to this. So it changes the brain. It actually changes. Abuse has been studied to change the
And to
wiring
normalize.
of that child. A
Mm,
child is meant to be exposed to safety, to be exposed to trust, to love,
mm,
and then that child has to learn the opposite, and the reality of that child becomes different from every other person's reality, and that child looks for that reality. So I agree with you, because hurt people. Chaos fosters chaos, because that's what you're used to, and that's why it's one of my passion, where you know we cannot fix the adult now. What can we do to even for prevention? So Laura, they help us out. If there's someone listening to us now that is like, you know what, I'm not yet married to this person, but I'm dating a woman or dating a man, or in our case, in this situation, for the purpose of our, for the context of our conversation, you know, what are the red flags? What are the, what should someone pay attention to? That should be like, huh? No, let me run now while I can before it becomes more complicated. What will you say, Lolade? Lolade, we can't
I did,
hear you now.
okay, sorry, I
Okay,
didn't know I
we
was.
can hear you now. Yeah, yeah.
So if you're in a relationship, like I usually even tell, adolescents, in a relationship with anybody, the opposite sex, or even, the same sex, the people in your family, your friends, any relationship that is not, mutually beneficial, does not support, does not respect you, does not respect boundaries, is not healthy. So if you're in a relationship with anyone, and the person cannot take no for an answer, for some reason you are refusing the person anything, the person cannot take no. When you tell the person no for any reason, the person flares up. That's a red flag. Please flee. If the person threatens you, um especially
Can you
threats of.
hear us? Okay, we can hear you now.
Oh, you couldn't hear me? You couldn't hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. It was going in and out.
Okay. um so i was saying
Now we
that
can hear you.
so I was saying that if somebody,
I think yeah, the network is just going in and out.
okay, so I was saying, if the person physically abuses you, if, as small as a slap, it's a red flag. Don't say it's just once, he promised to change, if he did it again, he shows you love or something. No. If the person has ever brandished a weapon at you, a weapon can be knife, can be gun, can be, cutlass, can be sees us, pointed at you in a threatening manner, that's a red flag. Even if they didn't carry out that threat, if they brandish any weapon at you, it's a red flag. If um, they have unhealthy obsession with lighting things on fire, it's a red flag. Maybe somebody gets you angry. Maybe my spouse got angry and he took a cloth that he bought for me and then set it on fire when he's angry. It's a big red flag. It's a pattern that has been observed in femicide cases with spouses who set their wives on fire. Eventually, it's usually didn't start with human. It started with lighting things on fire. Sometimes objects, sometimes a pet, an animal, their pet, a cat or dog or something. Um, if if is somebody that is always claiming you know unfounded allegations of infidelity, it's not a healthy relationship and there's no trust. um it's someone that acts excessively jealous, you know
Okay.
somebody that is always like, oh, where are you going? Where are you coming from? Who did you talk to? What did you do? Why are you speaking to her? That your friend? She's going to tell you things. Who is that guy? That your brother? I don't like him. So it might come. It might be packaged as love, like, oh, he loves me. That's why. But if there's excessive jealousy, it's usually a red flag. Um, if the person is bothered about a stepchild, if I have a child and my spouse or intended spouse is actually bothered about that stepchild, is not welcoming of that child, it can be from both either sex now. So, but it's a red flag. If there is history of abusing others, you think, oh, you're special. It might not be you, it might not happen to you, but you've heard that this person actually abused somebody else, their ex or something. It's a red flag. They're likely to do it again. Um, if it's a man that has disrespect for women in general, it's a red flag, and that's why we tell you know these adolescent girls, as you're going,
Lolade, your network is going in and out.
you can't hear me. Put on your hotspot for me. You can't hear me.
It keeps going in and out. So we're needing to pick up some
Okay,
things.
should I
So um I think the connection, yeah, the network
let me try to switch?
is yeah. So it just keeps going and in and out. We heard a few things.
Uh,
Okay.
okay, if I'm trying to
I know we heard a
switch,
few
okay,
things of
if
the
I'm trying to switch,
if you can't take no for an answer, if he isolates you, um, and if you hurt pets, I think we heard that. Um,
unfounded allegations of infidelity.
can you hear us,
Yes,
Loladi?
I can hear you. You can't hear me.
Okay.
I said
It keeps going in and out. We can hear now. I think is yeah.
sorry. I can try to switch my internet, but I'm worried about it, logging me off in the process of switching. So maybe I should just stick with this for now.
Okay.
I can try. I wanted to try and switch to,
Yeah. Okay.
but it might just log me. Don't want
Okay.
us to get out again. So if there are
It may log you out. Okay. So if it logs you out, okay. Well, we can hear you
okay,
now.
if there are unfounded allegations of infidelity, did you hear that? Unfounded,
Infidelity, right? That's what you said.
unfounded allegations of infidelity is always saying you are sleeping with that person, you are cheating. Where are you coming from? You are this. Do you understand? Unfounded allegations, like there's nothing to prove. It just believes that you're cheating for no reason. It's always accusing you of infidelity. Um, if they act excessively jealous, it could be packaged as love. They're acting excessively jealous, always want you to know where you are, who you're talking to, what you're doing every minute, every second. It's a red flag. Um, if it's someone that has disrespect for women in general, It's a red flag. And that's why sometimes when I'm speaking to adolescent girls, maybe finishing secondary school, going into university, and I'm like, you're going into a relationship with somebody, check their social media. What do they say? What do they say about women in general? Do they spew hateful things, hateful messages about women? Um, when you go out, how do they behave? Um, to maybe a woman who is a server at a restaurant. Is there some kind of disdain for women in general? It might be a red flag. If there's a history of abusing others before you, that's a red flag. If the person has abused somebody else before you, the person is likely to also abuse you. Um, if the person acts aggressively that and is spurred on by hallucinations, is a red flag. It believes that they're talking about him or something, and nobody is actually. You know, you don't have negative thoughts towards this person, but it's always thinking that, oh, is this what you're thinking, and acts aggressively towards you, and you keep having to explain yourself. No, this is I'm not. This is not who I am. It's a red flag. Um, if there's confinement, like imprisonment, somebody who doesn't want you to go out, locks you up in the house, says, oh, I just want you to stay at home. You don't need to work. You don't need to do anything. Just be at home. When they're going out, you don't need to go out. They lock the door, or they restrict you from, contacting your friends or family members. It's also a red flag. So the list is endless. I just
Mm.
like picked some that.
You've told us a lot, and we appreciate you. I'm just going to recap on what you just said because you mentioned the reception was going in and out. But I was able to the things I was able to pick, like you said, if it confines you, if the spouse confines you, if the spouse doesn't want you going out or doing anything, claiming in the name of love, if there's false allegations, there's always accusing you of infidelity or saying things which like gaslighting, really saying what you did not do, and just all in the name of love. If he doesn't want you to to I think you also mentioned in the beginning, if he cannot handle no, if he cannot, when you tell him no, if he cannot handle it, I think I heard that. I heard you say, if he isolate you from others, you've said that. It seemed like I just want to make sure.
He acts
Let me see.
excessively.
I think yelling, jealousy. You did say jealousy. You did say jealousy, where yeah, he can't. He's always jealous. You said something about partners, and you also mentioned his history. I think that's what I wanted to echo very well. Whoever you want to be with, you want to know
Mm-hmm.
about them. When you're dating somebody, it should not be about just all lovey, 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 and everything is good always on how we're holding ourselves and the romance. It cannot always just be about the romance. I wanted to echo that, where you need to pay attention. You need to see what are you observing that is not even verbal and non-verbal. What is he saying? What are you observing? So I wanted to echo that, and I'm glad that you said that. Where okay, does he have a history of abuse, abuse for himself or herself? As that person healed. I wanted to echo that. Like we said, hurt people hurt people. So if this is somebody that has witnessed domestic violence, if this is somebody that he or she has their own experience too, you know, um, if they have been a victim of abuse or witnessed this, it's always good to make sure, have they healed? Have they truly healed? Have they dealt with this? Otherwise, it's going to come up. You can't lock any part of yourself up for long. No, you can't be like, this is the part I choose and this is the part I don't. No, you can't choose any part of yourself for too long. After a while, other areas are going to come out. They're going to be expressed. Your who you are will be expressed in your words, in your thoughts, and in your deeds. So I just wanted to echo the need of observing that person, knowing that person, almost like a project. I'm not saying you should be a detective, but if you have to, but you need to know what their history is, their legal history, history of abusing somebody else, history of being abused, history of abusing even substances. Like I usually say, or as we've learned, when people abuse substances for long, they can try it here and there. But the moment you become dependent on something, there's a void inside of you. There's a void that you are avoiding. There's a void that you are numbing. And that void needs to be dealt with, be it an abandonment issue. And, that can be it an insecure. What is that insecurity? Are you, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being left? What is it? Um, is it pride? Is it, like you rightly said, jealousy? So, history, I wanted to echo that very well, Lolade, where who is this person that you want to be with? Who do you know them? Do you know about them? Like you said, the social media, what is their mindset? We can date whoever we want to date, but everybody is a function of their mindset. Our mindsets shape us, and as the good book says, as we think is as a man thinketh, so is he. So that mindset is very critical because your belief system can change everything. You can be tall, you can be short, like you said, it can be a man, it can be a woman, it can be a child. But really, that's just the body. But what is in that? What is the mindset of that person is critical. How do they treat others? So do they, like you rightly said, Lola, have they abused other people? Where they, as this happened before. So social media, like what you said, what do they represent? What do they talk about? From the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So, what do they say? What are they not saying? So, verbal and non-verbal. So, to you that you're listening to us and you have questions, if you already see these signs, leave. If you already see these signs, don't try to fix them. As I tell people of my faith community, you're not Holy Spirit. Don't try to fix anybody. You are not Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is the one that fixes people. You can't, even doctors, we don't fix, even in therapy, we don't fix people. Another human being cannot fix another human being. We don't have that capacity. So if you're listening, if you're listening to us, or you know someone that is contemplating, that is considering, oh, maybe I can manage this. No, in marriage or in long-term relationship, it's just going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
That amplifies the good and the bad. So if you
Mm.
can hear us, if you're listening and watching, reflect, think about this, share with someone that really needs to know. An abuser, if they don't want to change, there is nothing you can do about it. Let me be the one to tell you. There's nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. And like Lorade said, if you die, they move on. It's a mentality. So, and the abuser, and that would be another conversation. An abuser, like I was saying, needs help too. And I just wish that abuser can ask for help, can reflect. You know, that abuser, if you are listening to me or listening to us, and you've been a perpetrator of abuse, you've been a perpetrator of violence, reflect. Why do you do it? Hurt people hurt people. So, what is the hurt that you're running from? What is the hurt that you're not dealing with? And ask for help. Speak up. You can change the narrative by speaking up, by seeking help. Seek help, seek, ask around you, get therapy, get counseling, before it gets bad, before legal gets involved, before you are arrested, before someone else dies from your hands, you know. So if there's an abuser listening to us, please seek help. Nobody deserves violence, not by you. Nobody deserves violence. Nobody, nobody. So, Lolade, at this point, I'm going to ask, what are the practical steps that communities or faith based groups can take to better support survivors?
Say that again.
What are the practical steps that you can recommend? So, if there's a community listening to us now, if there's a faith based person listening to us, what are the practical steps you can share to to equip them to support survivors?
Okay, so I would say clergies. I think, do you mean clergies and religious leaders?
Clergy, yeah, faith leaders, even other communities.
Okay,
Um, it could be families, it could be men's group, it could be women's group. These are communities. Yeah. So that if somebody comes and they be like, "Oh, I don't know what to do," and
okay,
then yeah, or stay there. So, what would be the practical steps you would suggest?
okay. So I would say that we must be support systems for women and girls in violent situations. We must. It is our duty to ensure that no woman, no child, no one is abused. We must not place. I don't want to say we must not place faith over the sanctity of life, but it sounds somehow. But then the sanctity of life, we must recognize the fact that women and girls have agency on their own, and they must be able to
Hmm.
practice. They must be able to decide concerning their own affairs, their own lives. Um, Even though religious leaders, faith leaders, regulate, helps to guide, you know, people who practice these religions and all that. But then for survivors, once they open up to you, you must first of all, what we practice at my organization is to say the most important thing that we do is to first of all believe them. Okay. Um,
Okay.
Also pass messages about stigmatization. Let them know that they've probably made a mistake, but they are not to be blamed for this. Um, and also especially for sexual abuse survivors, what we tell them is that you're not spoiled goods, you're not rotten, you're not spoiled by this. This has happened, but I'm just gonna, in Yoruba they will say, "Oh, bani ko baje."
Hmm.
You don't have
Hmm.
to translate
Hmm.
that.
That
So
there's hope. There's hope.
yeah,
That's really what you're saying. Yeah, it's
yeah,
bad enough, but there's hope. Yeah.
yeah. So and what we are saying to them is that the most important thing is that we must come together to support survivors of abuse. If you don't, you're going to have yourself to blame at the end of the day. It happened in my church, in the church that I go to, although I didn't know in time about it, but it was later I was hearing that a woman who had been going through marital rape, she had been sexually abused severally by her husband. If she refuses him sex, he beats her up and then eventually, have his way with her. And even the children knew about it because they live in a one-room apartment and all that.
Mm.
So this woman wanted to leave and she approached the church. She said she wanted to be staying in the church. And the church said, "Oh, there's a policy that we don't allow people to sleep in the church. We can't allow people to stay in church." That there was a case in another church whereby somebody was staying in the church and he fought with the pastor and he killed the pastor or something like
Mm.
that. So they said it was not allowed. So the woman wasn't offered the accommodation. So I heard about the case on a Sunday. I was just asking about the mother. She didn't come to church. I didn't see her, and they said, "Oh, she wasn't feeling fine." I'm like, "Oh, hope she's not pregnant again. She's gonna do family plan." And then I then learned that, oh, they said they were going to support her, that with some amount that she herself should also get some amounts to be able to rent a place. So she was saving money
Okay.
to get an apartment. And they said, oh, she was not a contributing member or something, that, but they were going to assist her with some amount. But I guess the amount was not enough to, go and rent a place of her own. So she was in that abusive situation. So we were told about, I was told about the case on Sunday. I'm like, no, she can't be there. And then I spoke to somebody, because what usually happens is that if I'm going to take somebody to a shelter, I'm going to have to get a police extract, a police report to take to the shelter. So I'm like, okay, on Monday, I'll go get the extract, and Tuesday, we go to the shelter. This woman died on Monday night. And I was so livid. Like I was so devastated because it felt like this woman tried. She actually spoke up. She spoke about her abuse. We were unable to help her. And and there was no scar on her body to say oh, she was beaten to death. But the history of abuse, the years that she had been going through that abuse, sexually, physically, psychologically, she just succumbed. It felt like as if there was nobody to help her, and she died. And on the next Sunday when I came to church, they mistakenly gave me a microphone, and I said, when we were discussing what will we do about her, how do we cater to our children, I'm like, first of all, we have blood on our hands. Yes, this is more or
Hmm.
less like we killed the person. This woman spoke up, and we were unable to assist her. And they just dragged the mic from me and said, "No, why would you say this? Why would you say we have blood on our hands?" I was like, this is what it boils down to. Excuse me. When you see a person who speak up, who tell you about the abusive situation, ensure that you do everything to immediately, because she had spoken up like weeks before I now knew about it on that Sunday. And then on the Monday, I was trying to get her extra to take her to shelter first thing on Tuesday morning, and she died on Monday night. So like the first thing that we're supposed to do is to, first of all, I mean, this person said she's going through abuse. The church is there. You're going to close it and go home, and this woman is going to be continuing her abuse. What because somebody killed a pastor in one state some months back. How what is the correlation? So there was the policy. So it felt like as if we didn't value the life. So we oh my goodness, it's a long story, but because eventually I just remember that because I went to report the case at
I,
the police
I,
station.
I, yeah.
Can you hear me? And I tried to get the man arrested.
Can you hear us, Lolade? It's going in and out.
Oh,
Okay,
you
we
could.
can hear you now.
So I was saying that I tried to get the man arrested. Eventually, I went to report at the police station after she died, and the man ran to the pastor and all of that, and it became a clash of like, this community, we are trying to get members. If we are using police to arrest people, we're going to draw people away. People are going to step away from the church. I'm like, it is in the body of Christ himself. You will not condone wickedness. So if you're going to ask what would
Yeah,
Jesus do in this
yeah.
situation, he will not let a woman stay in an abusive situation. He will not. Aside from that, the church has a responsibility to cater to its members, not just spiritual catering. It has a responsibility to cater to the well-being of their followers. As leaders in the church, they must speak up against abuse. They must preach it. They must send messages across. Their body language must speak it. They must be open about it to say we don't condone abuse. They must organize programs to say, what are you doing in your house? What does your wife or husband not like? What can you
Yeah, I
do?
think with the network, Lolade, it's going in and out. Yeah.
Let me try to switch. The hotspot's telling.
Okay, it was good for a while then it started going in and out. But I think I heard what you said of for faith communities, any community must be able to speak against it. You speak against abuse, you don't condone it. And you were saying something about Jesus and faith, which I wanted to echo that even the lady that they were going to stone in the Bible, he didn't let them. And it's not just because she was even a lady or just anybody, because safety first. How can you practice faith if you are not even safe? It's going to be hard. And it's going to be really hard when you're watching. Your first thing is watching for your own life. You're always on edge. Am I there? Am I here? I mean, your survival instinct, and that's what happens. Lola, even to the brain. When you're always on edge, almost like the lion wants to eat the person. You are not even, you just need to get out first. You know, am I facing the lion? Am I running away from the lion? What am I doing? You know, and that's the first thing first, where the amygdala, the fear center of our brain is hijacked, and that gets really enlarged, and that's really all you're thinking. You can't even think. You know, is survival first before anything, is panic first before processing anything. So if it's panic instead of planning, you can't even be thinking about the next steps, like you were saying. And I hear you. Maybe it leads us to what you were saying. Maybe what it leads us to is, how can we support how can people listening to us now, Lolade, how can they support your foundation? How can I was going to ask you, I don't know how many shelters are there, because here, once you call and stuff and you're ready to go, you go to a domestic violence shelter, and some of them, those addresses are not public, so that the perpetrator cannot find you. No. So if you go to the hospital and they give you all these resources, they get you linked up, so the perpetrator cannot easily come find you. No. So I don't know, I know we're beginning, we should start wrapping up, but my curiosity was, how many shelters are even there in Nigeria? And maybe we don't even have to talk about it even on air right now, but the curiosity
Oh, we
would be,
can talk about it. We can talk about it. I think
yeah, how many shelters are there, and are they fund are they are they
shelter.
being taken, yeah, are they being funded, are they being taken care of? Tell us more, so that if there's somebody listening to us that is like, oh my god, like the lady, I'm so sorry about that lady, and how she died while trying to save money. Here, they don't ask you to just save, you speak up right away. Safety first, get you out first. Then we can start talking about the next. What do you need? But the first thing first, safety. Because every other thing, like you said, she was saving money. The church had given her some money, but she's still in the situation. And I'm sorry that it ended that way, but that's the situation for so many cases. So tell us, because this is not just another woman. This is not just another case. This is a woman's life. Now the children are motherless. So tell us, Lolade, how can we support your foundation? And I'm sure there are several other foundations doing this. How can people listening to us that are like, oh my God, how can they support? What can they do?
Okay. There are several ways that you can support. People can support our organizations. And honestly, we really need it. In 18 months, that's last year, and the first 6 months of this year, we had rescued 216 women and children. Children are boys and girls from different abuse situations, including domestic violence, sexual abuse, attempted femicide, child abuse, and different forms of abuse. We had rescued 216 women and girls from that situation. I mean, over the years since 2021, the number has been more than 500. But and we were looking at ourselves, my team and I were like, bro, we we had to pat ourselves in the back, um, to say, you know what, we really try over the past 18 months, because we do not even have funding. We do not have any funding, and I mean, in Nigeria, I think we have a total of 32 safe shelters
Okay.
serving about 200 million people, 220 million people. So that's very low. That's like we have we have a crisis on our hands.
Yeah.
At GHS, we also have a domestic as a safe shelter project to rent and equip a shelter for at least 2 years. So immediately, assuming we had the shelter, we didn't need to go and collect extra. To If it was our own shelter, we could have just taken that survival straight up that day and say, you know what, just come that particular night, and
That woman. Mm.
uh, she might still be alive by now. But because we had to, facilitate the process to another shelter, so we had to go through the police to go get extra, to go get this, that, and it was just that, that little time, and we lost that. So on our website on www.dohsks.org, we have a safe shelter project that people can donate to, and also the process of survival rescue um, for each survivor cost us about 80,000 naira. So in the
Hmm.
process of rescuing, taking them to the police station, reporting the case, taking them to shelter, and then following up with prosecution. And imagine if we have done 216 in 18 months, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Aside that, professional services, people can render their professional services to us. For example, what you're doing right now, um, therapists, counselors, they can actually we can partner with them to give counseling, virtual counseling to our survivors. They can also, we can partner with them. They can sponsor projects like maybe faith based advocacy in churches, also in communities. To sponsor such projects, and they can also speak virtually if they are professionals in that space. And also for us as um, front as first responders to
Hmm.
domestic violence, we experience secondary trauma from these cases. And sometimes for my team, there was one of my team members one day that was going for an interview, and I didn't even know. And I just sent her a case of femicide, a little child who was raped and killed. And she got into the interview space and she could not speak and she was just crying, and she lost the job, of course. So the secondary trauma sometimes is a lot on us. So they could support you know uh, mental health section for us as first responders to um, prioritize our well-being and mental health. And also we have different programs that could one could partner with. For instance, I coach adolescents to use poetry to address societal issues. So I have some of them at the end of term that they present a project. It can be music, it can be poetry. They're just using their art. It's called activism, and we have a program called club therapy, whereby we use literature to address some form of hurt that these people are going through. We practice bibliotherapy. Bibliotherapy is basically literary therapy, so we operate like a literary clinic. So when these survivors of abuse comes to us, um, we have people who write poems that we read to them just to let them know that we relate with your case and there are other people like this, and you don't have to go through this alone, and we are right there with you. So they can donate
Thanks for sharing. Yeah.
money
Yeah.
to um, our foundation. Um, like I said, on our website, ghsks.org, you could see the
Okay.
donate. You can volunteer your professional services, and you can send us a mail to partner with us on any project.
Okay. So I'm just going to echo that there's definitely need for funding. And I'll just, I was calculating it like you were saying, you spend average of $50. That's 80,000 naira per survivor. And so $50 to you listening to us, each survivor, with all the process and the legal, you're seeing about $50. And that's not even with the center, like we're saying, you'll be good. And I hope, the people listening to us can support you. I know we are going to, when we share this, the stream, for those that are watching the replay, the link will be there in the caption that would have your website. So people can go there and support, like you said, therapies, legal work, maybe pro bono, all this legal free services or volunteer services, I call it, that can be provided. So therapy, money, like you said, it'd be good to get your own shelter. So maybe you want to put it even there, how much a shelter can cost, so that people can start thinking about that. You never know who may be able to support that. So that it will be good for you to have your own shelter. And like you rightly said, you won't have to be referring out or renting. And I'm glad you're still, even despite that obstacle, it just shows that you're very passionate about this work. You're not letting that stop you. And like you said, 200. 200 survivors since that's a lot just this year. That's a lot, Lolade, and kudos to your team. Great work. So, whatever, whichever way, if you're listening to us, so that this work can continue and can even we can expand to help more people. But that's why we are increasing and raising the awareness. How can we go from prevention so that people can even avoid this before
Mm-hmm.
it gets? How can we help the abuser? The abuser needs help. The people abuse is a reflection of a problem. It's like a headache. It's a symptom.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Abuse is an information. When the perpetrator, if you have to raise your hand to express yourself, is an expression, is a reflection of something else that is going on. It's a symptom. It's a symptom of a deeper problem. So the abuser needs help too. So how can we support the abuser? And if they refuse, how can they be prosecuted so that the society can be safe? So I hear all of that, and I like what you said too about the art therapy, where you're using poem. You are an award winning. I know with this reception, I was hoping you would read a poem for us, but with this network, we can't really. It goes in and out. But Lolade is an award winning poet, just so you know. She has mastered the art of poetry and uses that to as a way of therapy. It's been therapeutic, and so well done with the work you do, Lolade. We appreciate your work, and we can only hope that this continues to grow. So a few more questions and then we'll wrap up. Um what what gives you hope in the midst of all of this? What gets you up every day that you're
Oh,
going to try again? What gives you hope?
so every life saved is a big deal for us, and the thrill, especially when a case gets reported and we can just swing in and change that life forever, and also the impact that we've had over the years about survivors in very terrible situations that who has now transformed into advocates themselves and now into this work, also working with us to ensure that other women and children are saved from this abuse. So we're basically transforming lives, and that's such a thrilling experience. So it keeps me going. And the fact that you keep seeing this abuse is not likely to stop. So, but we will keep doing what we can, because we know that even the little that we are doing is we're seeing results. We've seen children who were rescued from terrible abuse situations who are now, you know they're now in the university.
Hmm, that's
They
good.
are now thriving, and this is lives that are impacted, and we're very glad to be able to do this.
That's good. See me smiling here. I'm like, well done. Like, I just hear from what you're saying, one life matters. Like, just at least one life. One, if you can save one, that one
Well,
counts.
read the comments. People are saying, please read the poem. Someone just said, please read the
Okay,
poem.
someone said read the poem. Please, Lolade, read that poem for us. If you have
Who
one on standby, so maybe
except
wait, we'll make it the last thing before you leave. Yes.
okay,
So get one ready, and
okay.
we'll make sure that you do that. I'm not able to see the comments, so that's good that at least you're able to see it. So one thing that I wanted to ask, is how can the younger generation, how can they set boundaries? You would hear um they don't even have to be in a relationship. How can it be safe? How can it be safer, way of rape? And I know, that's a societal problem. Even the good book says the heart of man is desperately wicked. So I'm not saying you should fix the society, but
Mm,
if there's someone listening to us now, how should they ensure safety? How should they make sure they set boundaries?
okay. So
There's
like
people
I was
pleasing
saying earlier,
syndrome. There's trying, so how can as a society, yeah.
okay. um for someone entering into a relationship,
Lolade, your network is going in and out.
you can't hear me. Can you hear me?
Can you
Can
hear
you hear
us?
me? Yes, I can.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Am I muted? Okay, I can hear you. So I think the question
Yeah,
that I had
can
was
hear you.
that for survivors, for adolescents, maybe going into relationships, how can they
Hmm.
ensure that they're entering into a healthy relationship, right?
No, 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 not even relationship, Lolade. They don't even have to be in a relationship, you know. Relationship is good, but even friendship, you know, relationship is intimate. But maybe just at this point, just even friendship, you know, even going out, you know, at
Okay,
times you would hear a girl that was raped to death, you know, that maybe just went out to hang out, nothing to date, you know, and you just hear all of this, you know, how can we encourage safety, setting boundaries, you know, in friendships, even, you know, at personal boundaries. What can you comment? What would you say in that situation?
okay. So I would say that for any relationship that you're going into, if it is not mutually beneficial in the sense that there's no trust, respect, and support. Um, that relationship is not healthy. Um, whatever relationship you are into, there must be respect from both sides in the relationship. For everything that you do, there must be consent. It must not be overridden. It must not be taken for granted at any point. Um, the person must support you to achieve your goals. It must be that it's not that you will be asked to suspend your own, ideals and goals to support that other person. You must both support yourself to be better. And that's how to ensure that the relationship is healthy, and also ensure that abuse of drugs or alcohol, it's not usually advisable to be in a relationship with anyone who is excessively abusing um, alcohol or drugs.
Okay, I heard substance abuse, right? I heard being safe. I heard, um yeah, I think substance abuse is the main thing I heard. The connection was going in and out, but I heard that clearly, where just being safe, the person is responsible. And did I, Laura, are you
Yes,
still
I'm here.
there? Okay. So I just saw in the comments, have you had any male victim of domestic violence?
Um, yes, of course. First of all, we usually take on, if they're children below 18, either male or female, any form of child abuse, um, we take it on. So we've had several, male children who were being sexually abused as well. That, the cases were in court. The cases are in court presently, and for men who are experiencing domestic violence or from some form of segregation, what we do is that we link them to with service providers who are, catering to men directly. So we link them to support system working on violence against men, on
Okay.
GBV. Yeah.
Okay. So there are foundations to that. They support, they advocate violence against men,
Yes.
which is good.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
to clarify and to echo what you're saying, if a man is listening to us now and is the victim of domestic violence, can he call your foundation?
Most definitely. We say nobody deserves to be abused. So
Okay. Okay.
it's not
And like you
just
said, gender-based violence. So
it's
whether
a
it's a man, whether it's okay.
concept.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So if you are listening to us, and you're a man, and you're like, My own case is I'm the victim here. Please speak up. You are not the abuser. And we also know abuse is not just physical. It's not always
Mm-hmm.
physical. Abuse is not limited to physical. There's emotional abuse that does not have scars. And the work is not even during the abuse. The work begins after you walk away. And that's the work. The sooner you start it, the better. It could take years of healing. So this is not something that is encouraged for you to go in, like I said before, where I will fix him. No, or fix her. You are not the Holy Spirit. You can't fix another human being. You're
Mm-hmm.
only responsible for yourself, your happiness, your experiences, your decisions, and your reactions. Those are the only things in your control. So if
Mm-hmm.
this is happening and you already see the red flag, Ololade and myself were saying, leave that relationship while you can. Don't be the one to fix them, like, okay, maybe I'm the one that will fix them. No, don't be the one to fix them. It doesn't mean that you will never end up together. It just means this version of them is not who you need. This version of them is not beneficial, is not healthy for you. This version of them needs help, they need healing. Let them get that healing first, because whatever relationship you're going to start is going to amplify, whether good or bad. Relationships are amplifiers. They would
Mm-hmm.
amplify whatever is there. And to the abuser, hear me out too. You are hurting from some, you are hurting. You need help. Get care, get healing. If you're like, where would I start? I wrote a book. I wrote a book that is on Amazon, that is now at Roving Heights in Nigeria. When the Mind Cries is available at Roving Heights. Get a copy. If you know someone that needs that, get them one. Get them one. That is a good book. Well, I wrote it, but the comments, the feedback, it's When the Mind Cries is about how to heal from trauma, how to reclaim your peace, how to reclaim your peace, reclaim your healing, reclaim your life. So it's time how to renew your mind, how to rewire your brain. It's time. Don't live your life to chance. Don't live your life to somebody else. Don't live your life to chance or to somebody else's hands. Take back the control over your own life, and safety first, so that you can be alive to do other things tomorrow. Tomorrow may be too late. So, Lolade, as we wrap up, let us have you read your poem, and it's been a great time together. Thank you so much for an impactful and enriching conversation. I hope those that would watch the replay, they'll be able to get one or two things and share it. And share it. One in four women, 1 in 4 women has gone through, will go through. It's a lifetime prevalent, of something, and the man too. 1 in 6 men. So it's happening around us. If we can see it, it's happening around us. It's more common than we think. Let's speak up, let's seek help, and let's support others. Let's ask, let's support the survivors. It's not a blame game, it's not a judgment zone, it's a safe space. Lolade, please read us your poem as we wrap up.
Thank you. So I'm going to be reading a poem titled Colors of Worry. Colors of Worry. Today is the day that I denied the God of sorrow a visa into my heart. In years past, it strolled in and took whatever possessions I held dear. So I drive around chasing the crumbs of happiness left in me. I got no affirmation. For even in the University of Life, I failed woefully in Brief 101, a prerequisite for living. As I unexist here, only to coexist with my beloved in dreams, hurrying the moon to excuse the sun so I can embrace my darkness. I celebrate your birthdays by drowning my spirits in spirits. Liquid overdose for days when courage deserted me. Slices of despair downed with a cupful of tears. This is my story. This is my song. This is my story and this is my song. This is my style of launching rockets of hope into mental spaces already overcrowded with trauma. A glass of laughter to digest a plate of anxiety. a bar of therapy to wash away the scars of stigma, ribbons of logic to distract the colors of worry. Thank you. I hope it was
Thank you,
clear.
Lolade. Thank you so much. Yes,
Was it?
we heard the bulk of it. Yeah. Thank you for reading. Thank you for for putting a voice to people's struggles, for putting a voice to people's experiences. Thank you for being in this space. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for helping the helpless in this situation. Thank you for renewing their hope. And
Thank
we appreciate your time. We appreciate you shedding the light. And to our viewers, to our listeners, we appreciate you. Thank you for your patience so far, your support. And don't forget, share this with someone that it may benefit. Listen to it again. Listen to the replay, broadcast it. You may, this may be the answer to somebody's problems, somebody's questions. You may be saving lives. So broadcast this, share this to who may need this. Tomorrow may be too late. And remember to support DHOS Cares Foundation. $50 per life would go a long way. So please visit their website and
Please
they will appreciate
from
any support.
RG in the group, our website, dohscares.org. I'm trying to see how I can write
We'll
hi.
provide it when we
Oh,
broadcast, when we restream. Yeah, we'll
I'm
put
seeing
that there.
somebody today is a birthday. Gabriella Wanero. Happy birthday. God bless you in the chats.
God
Thank
bless you. Thank you so much. All right.
you for the
Until the
opportunity.
next time, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Lolade. Bye
Thank
now,
you.
everyone.
Bye.